Hello, football family. Welcome into Huddle It Up Films little impromptu live session. I mean, Alec Polianis, one winning pod with me. Why not? Why not, man? It's the first AFC Championship game here in Baltimore for the Ravens franchise. First one since 1970, since before I was even born. So why not do a live stream, impromptu live stream? Thank you for the people that are in here already. Wasn't expecting much, didn't promote it, so thank you so much for joining me. And Alec, thank you.
Hey man, no problem. I mean, I feel like it was impromptu for the audience, but we kind of knew we were going to do it. We were chit chatting.
Well, we kind of had to, man. I felt that. I
Yeah,
felt it in my soul. We kind of had to, especially after the way last week went. And I wanted to ask you first about the game, and I've talked to you about this a little bit, but I want you to rehash it with me and tell everybody what it was like out there at the stadium, because at home it seemed loud. I mean, you can kind of tell if you watch enough Ravens game, be like, man, it sounds like the crowd sounds a little rowdy out there. But
yeah.
then the announcers were talking about it. Then, of course, the Texans had these pre-snap penalties. So, from your seats, how was it?
It was different this game. I would say almost than any other game we've been to in the last 2 years. And the reason why I would say is that typically, at least in my section, we frequently have away guests, and we try to be nice to them and all. Like we're not trying to be mean or anything, but like it changes the atmosphere a bit, right? You have conflicting interests. Doesn't really stop us from cheering, but you don't have it wasn't all surrounding sometimes. And this game was different. The people behind us were asking if we would be back next week, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll be back next week. We're PSL owners." And we're like, "When did that happen?" Because like the seats behind us are always away fans. So, it was one of those things where everyone was jacked up. They were ready to be loud, and there was like one Texan fan, two Texans fans that we saw. There was equal amounts of Vikings fans. There's a guy wearing like an Alvin Cook jersey, a couple of rows down. But yeah, dude, the energy was high. And it's one of those things that feeds on itself. Like once you get going, once the defense has success, and there's a delay of game or whatever, the crowd's right back in it. And I think one thing that I would say was pretty good about the crowd is that it was resilient, particularly after the punt return and after the sacks. People like knew what to do. They didn't like get too discouraged. It was more resilient than normal, because typically what happens is like once momentum is lost, it's very quick that people like just don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to be engaged. And I don't know. I never understood why, but it did feel different in this game, and I hope it continues in the championship round.
I felt that I went to the one of Lamar's best games against Indianapolis when the massive comeback and all that other stuff, and he put up 400 yards, I think, passing, and it was just such a great game. But Indianapolis was up to such a big lead that the crowd was totally out of that game, and the move those chains was just dead. And then as the Ravens started to come back, the crowd started to build. So it's good to see that it was, or hear that it was resilient, because we're going to need that. And I think, regardless, a fast start in this game would really, really help the Ravens. If we come out and score a touchdown on the opening drive, say force a 3-and-out, and then score a touchdown, something like that, jump out big, it's just going to be like a feeding frenzy among like the players and the fans just interacting together. When we watch Ravens Wired, we could see Clowney and Roquan just firing the fans up, and to really get that thing started right. I think it would be huge for this game.
There are definitely some indicators that would suggest that this game's going to go well for the Ravens. I think if they start off hot, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a quick death, because one thing that I think is really good with this Ravens team is they play such good complementary football, and that's like the premise of their whole success almost. They know the game script they want to get you into, and now they are resilient. They can get out of other game scripts if it doesn't work out. But if you play their hand, like it's a really hard matchup.
And I think that the crowd will not get complacent if the Ravens get up two scores, say it's 10-0 first quarter, because the Ravens fans know who's on the other sideline: Patrick Mahomes,
Yep.
Andy Reid, and how important this game is. And I think it'll show from a play calling aspect too of the Ravens. There's not going to be this, okay, we're up in the third quarter, let's just stop what we were doing, maybe run the ball a lot more. If it's not successful, if we're running the ball well, sure. But to just try to shorten the game, it's like in a game like this, you got to go for the kill. You got to go for the kill,
Hmm.
not take the pedal off the metal. Like I could see, you know, airing it out until the very end, even if we're up. Obviously the passes would be safer, but not taking the foot off the pedal, I guess is what I'm getting at.
For sure. And I think you saw that during the Ravens wire that was really encouraging. You saw Roquan saying we're not done yet. And I mean they were kind of done, but they weren't done yet, you know? They didn't want to let up any points. And even when the game was in a situation where everything would have had to go perfect and miraculous for Houston to be able to come back and win, they were still going out there trying to take their souls. And I tell you, it's hard not to root for these guys and not to want to, give it your all as a fan. And that, if you're in the like privileged position to be at the game, right, and you can make noise, like how can you not? Those guys are, they have such a mentality of they won't let people take away what they've been working so hard for, and it's infectious, the mentality of this team. And yeah, I'm thinking that it will be a very into it fan base. And I mean, frankly, if we're up by 14, that's more reason to celebrate. If we're up by 21, that's more reason to celebrate. That's more reason to be loud. Like, this is an amazing moment for the city of Baltimore. So I feel like we'll be loud no matter what.
Something that you just brought to mind is the last time the Chiefs were in town for Sunday Night Football, it was week 2. So this is
Mm-hmm.
an early season matchup. Not a lot of high leverage as far as playoff implications at that point. You're looking way far ahead. But that was the game that Patrick Mahomes said that Baltimore and Seattle, he could not hear, or his tackles could not hear him,
Mm-hmm.
and it was that loud in the stadium. So I think
That's still the
the
loudest game I've ever been to, I think. Like, I really do think that game was the loudest I've ever been to. I just remember it oh so well being super loud. And, it can always be determined by where you are, in the stadium as far as like the people around you. Because sound stuff's so localized. I was actually joking with someone, when they show the scoreboard, they're like, I don't think that's real. I think it is. I think what it is though, is like, it is real for a very specific spot. Like, whatever that microphone is, like, really matters because you go every time you double the feet, you lose, decibels and pressure, and like, yeah, it has everything to do with where they put it. If they put it with the rowdiest fans, it'd be the highest like metric, right? And if they put it with like a lackluster section, it doesn't matter. If the whole rest of the stadium is loud as anything, it would be low. So it just has to, you have to
okay.
put it just in the right spot.
So maybe they should put the decibel meter like right by Real Fan Dan or something.
That's right. If Real Fan Dan had the microphone, it'd be 120.
Right, there you go. Yeah. So that Kansas City game in 2021 to you was louder than last week in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be, purple colored glasses or whatever, but I think it was. Um, I just remember like it was just an unbelievable roar in so many moments, and I feel like we didn't really quite have that. I think partially because there's still a little bit of taking for granted with the Texans. I think like people were like, "Oh, that we're better than them," and we were clearly. But I think the Chiefs game will be different just because of who was on the other side. Even though they're not maybe the best Chiefs team that we ever seen, we know it's a big deal to beat them.
It is. It's a big deal for everybody, and I don't want to minimize that. I think obviously how highly I think of Lamar. He's going to be here for the long haul, and the Ravens are going to be here for the long haul. And this game is part of his legacy, though. You can't just discount the importance of this matchup from a franchise standpoint. I mean, you want to capitalize. You have what has been and is the best team in football in the Baltimore Ravens. You look around like this week, we're healthier than the Chiefs are. This is a game that you need. You need. This is a huge game for Lamar Jackson. It's a huge game for the city of Baltimore. It's a huge game for anybody that you want to talk about. You're talking about Hall of Fame legacies being cemented from the head coach to the quarterback to other players on this team who are going to have great careers. And they look back and this could be a year where they add a Super Bowl championship to their all pro. Just a huge game. What do you make of the line? The Ravens now
Hmm.
are 4-point favorites.
Yeah.
Started I think at 3 and it went to 3.5, and now it's a 4-point favorite. I checked before I came on.
Yeah, so it's been weird actually. It was at 3.5 when I first saw it, and then it moved to 3 very briefly on like a single site, like on DraftKings. It moved to 3, but never nowhere else. And then it moved. Now you said to 4, which is really interesting because I thought coming in it was gonna be like 5, 5.5, 6. 6.5. Like, I mean, legitimately, I just thought it would be bigger difference. And I think the thing that's crazy about the whole line situation is this is the same line, or it was until this recent movement. It was the same line as the Bills game. And that's basically saying the Bills, also at home, had an equal chance of beating uh, the Chiefs as us. And I'm like, we're a lot better, you know?
Mm.
I,
So
and
the Bills game was a 4-point spread. Bills minus
I think it was
4.
3.5. So I
Wow,
mean, it was
man.
right around the
Wow.
same. Yeah, that I didn't know this. I was talking to Jordan Co. He told me that, and I was like, "Wow, that's crazy." I guess I did know it because I looked at the line, but I forgot it because I didn't like it. I just I didn't want to pick either side in that game. I just was like, somebody's gonna win, obviously, but I don't know who.
Yeah, I didn't like that game either. Hey, I want to give some shout outs here, man. Dear friend of the show, and just
Oh,
overall, simply AS10 with the LFG. Love you, brother. It's good. Thank you for checking in. Andrew Sakara saying hi to Simply. Andrew also comments on the videos and the cut ups that I do. I see you out there, Andrew. Thank you so much. And then it's the DON to the C. Um, Great Ravens fan, Don C, always
yeah.
supporting. What's up? What's up to you, Don? Man, thank you so much for tuning in. And Don, are you working? Are you in the car? Because I know Don's got a crazy schedule, Alex. Sometimes he'll be,
Oh yeah.
yeah, he'll be like, look, I'm listening now, but I'll be watching later if I do a film cut up or something. No
Hmm.
film cut up tonight. We're just going to go over this matchup and let's get into it. Let's get into it, Alex.
All right.
Let's get into the numbers of this game. There we go, up on the screen right now.
Mm.
I have to talk my way through technology, Alex. So I
It's
always like
like,
pray that it works. So, what do you think about the graphic that I made, Alec? What do you think about the style there?
I mean, it looks a little lopsided. It looks like Baltimore's the better team. That's what I'm seeing. No, but it looks great, man.
Thank you, thank
Beautiful.
you. So, Baltimore offense, Kansas City defense. This is when Baltimore has the ball. You can see the Ravens fourth overall in points scored this year. That Kansas City defense, though, Alec, right behind the Ravens, number
Hmm.
2 in points allowed, only allow 17.3 points a game. And I just want to say that there are a lot of similarities that I see between this Kansas City defense and the Ravens defense across the board. Do you see the same thing? And if so, what sticks out to you as like the KC defense is kind of similar to our defense in certain ways?
Yeah, so I'll give it a two-part answer. If you asked me yesterday, I would have said, well, they're second in stacks behind us, just three behind, not that big of a deal, and also have no signature pass rusher, but a collection of guys all getting somewhere between like their top two guys are both 10.5, and uh, Chris Jones and Karloftis. And then you have like a guy with 7, a guy with 6, and stuff like that to add it all up. But then if you ask me today, one thing I thought was super interesting, a really good article in The Ringer talks about how the Ravens and the Chiefs are two of the best defenses when it comes to defeating teams when they do pre-snap motion. So pre-snap motion, as we know, is one of the biggest things in the NFL right now for offenses. It's one of the ways that they're trying to gain leverage, and
Big
it's kind of what
trend causes
big, yeah,
miscommunication. Yes.
yeah. This is like the big renaissance for offenses, kind of coming from that Shanahan tree and McVay and McDaniels and all that good stuff. Well, it turns out that the Ravens defense is really good at communicating and changing and doing their checks during these pre-snaps, and they also start moving when the offense moves. And this is a way for them to change, their perception. So basically, if it looked like it was, let's say it's a too high look, they might be able to move it into a robber or something like that. And they are always reacting, and you can see in this article, you can even see how they know based on the motion, basically when the snap's going to be. And this is particularly deadly for away teams. So if you're away and you're doing a silent count, you become more predictable with the motions. These defenses can really key in on that, and that's one of the ways that we've been successful. It seems like.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, that's another thing with the crowd advantage. I mean, did couple of cut ups of the Texans and the Ravens this week, and you could tell when the Ravens were on defense. I mean, C.J. Stroud had to lift his foot, and the center snapped it exactly the same time every time. So when I was doing the purple circles and all, like I didn't even have to really set that. It was like, okay, his he started to lift his right leg, bam, pause, put the purple circle. The snap's gonna go off when the circle goes off.
Nice.
So yeah, it's another advantage for the home team. But yeah, you mentioned that sticks out to me. The Chiefs, much like the Ravens defense, aren't relying on one guy to get sacks. They have Chris Jones, we have Matabike. So they get the inside pressure and they can move Matabike and Chris Jones to the edge sometimes. A lot of 4-eye, as one of my commenters pointed out on the Matabike cut up. Matabike playing a lot of 4-eye, which is just inside the tackle, like Calais Campbell did. So a movable piece, and Chris Jones they have just like Matabike. They have their young pass rushers. We have our veteran pass rushers, but it's a collective unit. Another similarity, I think that they are strong at linebacker. Obviously, they're not Roquan and PQ, but Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, two very good players there. And then lastly, Alec, their secondary is a physical secondary. You're talking about L'Jarius Sneed and the other players, and McDuffie is physical for his size. It just kind of harkens back to the bigger corners that we have, a good tackling team. So this Chiefs defense is no joke, bro. And I feel like almost like a higher scoring game, kind of off tangent, a higher scoring game kind of favors the Ravens here. Where if Kansas City, I think, is not as talented as the Ravens overall roster. So kind of like the Ravens of old, keep the score low, like those old Kyle Bowler teams, and so on and so forth. Let's make this a 17-10 game. I think that would be the goal if I was a Chiefs fan, to keep this a low scoring game, because if it gets up into the high 20s, I don't think Kansas City can keep up with this Ravens offense that we're looking at here.
For sure. I think we can definitely stress their linebackers. One thing I noticed is that Knox and to a better extent Kincaid had some success against them, and I think our tight ends are a much better duo with Mark Andrews all but confirmed to be active and then likely playing extremely well, which it always makes me so happy thinking about when we talked about that many moons ago, man. It's like how likely it's turning out exactly as one would hope. It's so good. But anyways,
as you predicted. So
I did.
let's go ahead and get that.
Yeah, I just love the fact that he's playing so well. It's one of my favorite evaluations, so to speak. Just being like, it worked out, and for it to be on the Ravens and not a darn Steeler. Too many times I like a player that went to the Steelers and he turns out to be good,
right? Or the Bengals or any of them, right?
Right.
So Alec, Lamar Jackson in this past game, it's a run first offense. They're middle of the pack in passing yards, but look at the yards per pass, third in the league at 7.9. Lamar was actually at 8.0. The Huntley game brought that down to 7.9. So 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. You're talking about a passing offense of the Ravens that can hurt you. Every time Lamar drops back, it averages a result of 7.9 yards for the Ravens. That includes the sacks and everything, the negative plays, the incompletions, 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Lamar and this offense has done a really good job of protecting the ball, and that's going to be key, as in any game, but especially games like this, to be efficient through the air and to keep protecting the ball.
Completely. If we win the turnover battle, it's another very good indicator if we're going to win the game. Obviously, that's always the case, but I think it's particularly true in a game that we can expect to maybe be close. It might not be close, but if it's going to be close, then those turnovers are going to matter even more. And I think one thing you mentioned is I don't listen to like national pundits because I think they're dumb. They're probably not dumb, but they just don't have enough time to actually pay attention to anything. So when they say these like sweeping narratives, it's just like wrong. It's not thinking critically enough. So I just don't care. But yeah, the thing I think that's hard is like you look at Pro Football Reference, for instance, and you look at how many yards any of their particular pass catchers get on the Ravens, and you're like, they can't be doing much. But then you look at if you actually look at the quantity of people catching the ball, it adds up. So that's the thing. I think there's so many. There's legitimately 6 high quality targets, and that's tough. That's
Right.
one more than you can possibly have running in a play. So the fact that we have 6 high quality ones, it makes you able to mix and match personnel and just be crazy with it. And I'm not even including some people who I think are also like decent. I'm saying just like high quality. So that really changes, I think, the scope of this team.
So yeah, go over it, man. You got Zay Flowers, and I'm going to add Andrews in at the top there with him,
Yeah.
likely. So that's three. Then you got Bateman. He's going to get you a few times a game. Odell can take over at points in the game. You got Nelson Aguilar, who has showed. So there's your six that you're talking about. I'm guessing
Yep.
guys that can hurt you, guys that can score. And philosophically though, Alec, I want to ask you this. Not to put, I don't know, it might be a kind of a strange question, but this like we see it with the pass rushers where we're not relying on a Miles Garrett or a TJ Watt to get home. We can get you multiple different ways. I almost kind of like it better with this receiving core that we don't have like what the Bills had, Stephon Diggs and then nobody else. So
Oh,
okay,
for,
we
yeah.
can we can bracket Stephon Diggs and double team him all day, or like Devontae Adams on the old Packers, what Wink did to him. He was seeing double and triple teams, and we're going to take him away. Nobody else can get you. Like, yes, the Chiefs have L'Jarius Sneed, excellent corner. Maybe they match him up, and he takes away one of our targets or minimizes one of our targets. Well, you still have, as you're saying, five more guys that can hurt you, and I kind of like the spread out approach at receiver. Like, let's not spend all our money on one big guy and then ignore the rest of the room. Let's fill that room with guys that can hurt you.
For sure, because it's much more sustainable, and you have an answer for everything. It's first of all, it's better for injuries, right? So that helps. Second of all, I truly think like that's why this offense is so chameleon. One week it could do one thing, next week it can do the next thing, and it all comes down to the individual matchups on the other team. So, like for instance, this week I think the linebackers is maybe where you want to pick on. You said they were good, but I think they're probably who you want to pick on. Usually they are in almost any offense. And we have great tight ends that can handle that. We can go over the middle with so many of these guys. Because I mean, let's be frank. Sneed has been really shut down this year. McDuffie is an all pro. These are going to be harder guys to throw against. Fair enough. Go away from them. Like, you don't have to. And luckily, we have other people that you can throw to. I think if we start seeing a solid run game in the first two quarters, then it's game over because it's always good in the second half. So I really think like if we can get the running game going early, like forget about it. They're toast. But
All right,
we'll
look,
see.
hold that thought, because I think I'm gonna push back on that, but I want to stay on the passing game just for a second. The
Okay.
one thing that does stick out to me about this Kansas City defense, we'll see the Baltimore defense, we'll see the other side of the ball soon, but yeah, the touchdowns allowed for them are great. They only gave up 19 touchdowns this year, but they only got 8 interceptions. That
Yeah.
seems really low. So they're as good as Kansas City's defense is. You see second in points allowed, third in yards per pass allowed. They're they're missing kind of like that ball hawk nature, turnovers in this game. So uh, the Ravens, when we turn to it, you'll see they have 18 interceptions. I mean, I think Geno Stone has is seven. So
Yeah.
Geno Stone by himself almost has as many as the
That's
entire
what I
Kansas
said.
City
Yeah.
team. And,
Backup
and when
safety.
and when you were talking about the passing over the middle, we also have a quarterback who's deadly over the middle. In fact, people put it on him. Oh, he can't throw outside the numbers, mainly because him and Andrews were just slaying things over the middle so often. So you have a quarterback that doesn't throw interceptions. You have a team on Kansas City who doesn't get a lot of interceptions, and they can operate over the middle of the field. So it would be great to see both Likely and Andrews involved in this game. I would imagine thoughts on Mark Andrews here. I would imagine he's going to be on some kind of a pitch count, even if he does play. Like, all right, let's say we have 60 snaps on offense. Mark usually plays 40, 45 snaps. What would you put his snaps at if he usually at 40 to 45? How much would you say he's getting coming back?
25 to 35, but probably closer to 25 to 30. I think they're going to be a little less, um, a little bit more selective about when they put him in. But I actually do think, I don't know, maybe it's just witch casting here. Part of me is like, if they can actually unleash 12 personnel, uh, then it's something that you really haven't seen too much out of the Ravens this year. At least like high octane 12 personnel, and that could be
Right.
really the final form for this offense. It makes me excited, but I think they'll be more choosy. It'll probably indicate a passing down. I don't anticipate him doing much run blocking, at least in the thick of things. I could see him maybe one-on-one on the outside on a corner if he's like flexed out, but I don't see him in line blocking much in this game. That's
Right.
my
A lot of pressure on that broken ankle to come
Yeah.
back and to try to handle some 250, 300 pound defensive end. I
Right.
could see that too, but I could also see us running out of spread formation. So yeah, we have Andrews on the field, but he's flexed out as a wide receiver. We've seen how deadly we can be running the ball out of the, when we spread the field, the anti Greg Roman. Let's just spread everybody out. And you know what? If they cover it, that middle, and there's going to be some kind of open lane for Lamar just to take off and have room to run, or run somebody like Gus Edwards out of spread. And if he hits a hole, he's going to be, or Justice Hill, he could be gone for a big play. So yeah, I kind of agree. I would say if Mark plays maybe 25, 30 snaps, sounds about right to me. Just a ramp up, maybe bring him in on third downs, maybe bring him in the red zone. But if it's 1st and 10 from your own 25, maybe that's a time where you don't wear them out, down in a non-money
Yeah.
situation there. So
First
yeah.
downs, no. Second and long, yes. Third and whatever, yes. Otherwise, he's probably not in, and that's fine. It's totally fine.
So you mentioned the rush game. Just to look at the numbers very quickly, the
Mhm.
Ravens, of course, great rushing team, third in the league in yards per rush at 4.9, most total yards. A lot of that coming with the Ravens having the lead against so many good teams, by the way, which is crazy. Rushing touchdowns, 26 rushing touchdowns for the Ravens, fourth in the league. And you look at that Chiefs defense, much like the Ravens, another similarity. They will sacrifice their run defense to have a great
Mhm.
pass defense. So they're actually tied with the Ravens, 24th in the league, allowing 4.5 yards per rush, and they've allowed 10 rushing touchdowns. Now, you said something earlier. I thought I was going to push back that you said that if the Ravens run the ball early, say it again.
I was saying if the run game gets going early, then they're done because the run game usually takes until the second half to really start hitting on all cylinders. So I just thought that'd be if we're able to control the line of scrimmage and move down the field with the run game early, then that would be really good for the Ravens.
It will be, and that might be the case. The counter argument to that is that the way the Chiefs have operated, at least in the games that I've seen, and especially last week at Buffalo, is they will give you the run early, much like the Ravens will. And then you saw James Cook last week just gash them in the first half. Second half, they shut that thing down. So the Chiefs are very good at making adjustments after halftime, after the middle of the second quarter, say, to take that run away from you. So it'd be kind of like strength versus strength. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just painting the other side that, the Chiefs kind of operate like the Ravens do, where they're going to take away the pass first, make you get those yards on the ground, and then adjust. So, but still, this is an area that the Ravens can exploit. And I got to tell you, man, I picked, when I went on with our buddy Engraven,
Mhm.
and he asked me for a key factor. And for fun, I said, "Who's your key factor on offense, Alex? What would you say if you were me?" This is after I recorded, but
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't tell you who I picked. I wanted to hear who you would pick, and you picked the same guy I did in Justice Hill because of the explosive runs. We've seen it all year. It seems like Justice Hill is going to get loose for a double-digit run once a game, a 10 yarder, a 15 yarder, and if he didn't slip, or if he would have seen the right hole, it could have been a house call. That's like the story of Justice Hill. But I could see him having a big role in this game and maybe eclipsing 50, 60 yards through the ground or on the ground if the Chiefs are going to give it to us.
Hey, that'd be cool. I definitely think he's a huge component. Kind of like I was saying with you, I thought he might be a canary for good things to come if he's being productive early. I also think he's a fun back to have in there because of how well he pass blocks as well. I really just enjoy the fact that I feel like he is not a traditional 3 down back, but I feel like he could actually play all 3 downs if we really needed him to. But we have guys like Dalvin and Gus who you can use as well, and I'm so excited for this trio. Obviously, it'd been better if it was Keaton Mitchell and Dobbins and all that. And it really breaks my heart those guys aren't available. But I do feel like these 3 backs plus Lamar can be a really deadly run game in the last 2 games of the season.
Man, Lamar, don't let me forget to come back to that one. But I'm going to stick on Justice for a second. I think he is a 3 down back. He's been our 3rd down back all year, and obviously that's what makes you a 3 down back. It's not that you can't run on first or second down. It's can you
Right.
pass protect and catch out of the backfield. He's had some big catches for us too. I could see, if the linebacker's on him, exploiting a slower linebacker on a wheel route or a Texas route or any kind of route, really, where Justice can make some hay in the pass game. And then Gus will have his role. I'm like, there's no mystery to me on like how Gus will be used, when Gus will be used. But Dalvin Cook really struck me. If you guys want to check on the channel, I did a cut up of the Ravens designed run game versus Houston. And it really sticks out if you understand the run scheme of the stretch zone, how good Dalvin Cook is at staying patient with it and stretching that thing as far out towards the sideline as he can before he bursts upfield, finds a hole, giving his offensive line time to create something. Whereas when we've run that play with Justice and especially Gus, they're quick to cut that thing back and head upfield. Like you can tell Dalvin Cook's experience in that stretch zone. And man, it wouldn't surprise me, Alec, to see him get more than the garbage time touches that he got last week. Like I thought he looked really, really good. Obviously, at the very end, he had two, I think, rushes for -3 yards that messed with his total in yards per
Right.
carry because it was garbage time and they were, just crashing down. But on the runs that counted, Dalvin Cook looked like as good as any back that we've had all year. He doesn't have the explosiveness as Justice Hill. He doesn't have the power of Gus, but just the knowledge, the vision, the patience, the contact balance. Like it would not surprise me, Alec, to see Dalvin Cook get touches in the first half.
Yeah, for sure. I thought I mean, obviously, whenever there's a 19-yard run, you look at each other and you're like, not bad. But then when he kept repeating it, and just like you said, the patience, even when he only got 3 yards, but the way he got it and things like that, it made me think to myself as well. I was like, this guy could actually be something. How crazy would it be to pick up a guy who doesn't play a game for you until, you know, playoffs? That turns into like a real player, like a real contributor. That's an amazing pickup. So I saw what you saw as well. I could definitely see him getting touches earlier. I was actually kind of surprised he didn't get touches earlier when we started playing that game last week. I thought they would bring him in a little bit sooner than they did. But for sure, man, I think if he doesn't have 3 carries by the end of the first half, I'd be surprised.
Lastly, with this offense, before we switch sides, Lamar with the ball in his hands, part of the design run game. And not only that, his willingness to take off in the pass game and not let things develop quite as long. We've seen Lamar, he'll hang in there, he'll look downfield. He's proven that he's not a run. He's never really been a run first quarterback. He's gone through his progressions really well since 2019 to 2020, especially. He really grew in that area. But in a game like this, you can see that Lamar's willingness to take off earlier, I think, speeds up. And I think it's because he knows he can be dangerous with his legs to give Kansas City something else to account for. And also, there's no tomorrow. I mean, there's only one tomorrow, and that's the Super Bowl. So in this time of year, it's like we've been kind of saving Lamar's legs, letting him win with his arm only, letting him win with his arm only. We get to crucial situations, but like the Lamar anytime touchdown seems like a great bet to me because when we get into the red zone, there's just really no way to defend Lamar. It's what made him great in the first place. Even in Roman scheme and in college, is his ability to convert in the red zone.
Yeah, him removing the governor, so to speak, I think is what made him so giddy about scoring points against the Texans. Remember that press conference? He seemed really confident. He knew something we didn't, and I think all it was that he knew he could run. And he's like,
Right.
"Man, we've been cooking all year without me actually trying to run. Like, imagine if." And yeah, it's one of those things. Like once he starts going, it's another thing you have to worry about, and it just changes the way you have to play. I mean, no one is brave enough to play man on man, against Lamar because he'll just run. They never want to turn their back. And that just makes things a lot easier for him and in all aspects, both passing and also running. So I'm feeling good about him. I think he's so special, It's I think lost on a lot of fans sometimes. They want to take it for granted. Oh, he has a bad game against the Steelers. He didn't actually have a bad game, right? But they dropped the ball a lot. It's like, oh, he's like he can't throw, whatever. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, how quick do you forget? Like, this guy is actually extremely special. We literally have a probably Hall of Famer on our team, and if he goes on to get a second MVP, which seems extremely likely, and he goes to the Super Bowl / wins the Super Bowl, I don't know how he's not going to be a Hall of Famer, right? So like this guy is so special. Enjoy it.
Yeah, it bothers me when people say Lamar's the most electric player or one of the most electric players in the league or he's one of the most talented players in the league. Like, yeah, that's true, but he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Like, this is the future of the game, and we might go and we might have gray hair, both of us, before we see somebody with the kind of quarterback that Lamar is. I mean, they're all mobile, but Lamar's better than your best ball carrier. He can throw the ball better than your quarterback can. He's got more arm angles, off platform throws. He's got an arm. He can layer the ball over the linebacker in front of the safeties. Just, when they kind of minimize it to he's a special talent, it kind of bothers me. So, any final thoughts on the offense before we flip it over here?
Do you think this is going to be an OBJ game? You think he's going to show up?
I think a lot of that depends on where L'Jarius Sneed lines up.
Yeah. Yeah.
If L'Jarius Sneed's main mission is to cover Zay Flowers, it'll open things up for OBJ. I kind of don't think Sneed is a good matchup for Flowers. Like, Sneed is a big cornerback, and we've seen
Yeah.
smaller, quicker cornerbacks fail at covering Zay Flowers. So if I were them, I'd consider putting Sneed on like Likely or Andrews because L'Jarius Sneed will travel. We'll put him on a bigger, our second favorite target is the tight end. Maybe do that, or just say, look, I'll take away OBJ or Bateman. But I think it depends on what they want to do. That's the beauty of this offense. You want to put your best corner on this guy, fine, we'll go to that guy. So Bateman could have a huge game on an island by himself against their worst corner, quote unquote. I could see it any other way. Like, I wouldn't bet on any one receiver going off because it could be anybody.
Totally agree. Yeah, I was just curious. I think it's one of those things like we got OBJ and we were like, oh, yeah, he's going to really show up at the end of the year and in the playoffs. And I think to some extent that was true. But I think the funny part too is like the way the offense is coming along. It's like, well, one of these guys is like going to have a quote unquote down game every game just because there's too many of
Right.
them. So
There's too many guys. So, yeah, Sherry. Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've seen you before in the comments. Really means a lot, the support, and thank you so much. It doesn't go unnoticed. I see everybody. I just don't always respond all the time. But off platform means when a quarterback can't get his feet set, he can't get the traditional weight behind it and throw. Like Lamar can throw when he's falling backwards. Lamar can throw when he's rolling to his left and has to go across his body. So it's more like off platforms a way to say like an unconventional throw. And Lamar, of course, also has the arm angles. So even when his feet are set, he can go around. He can drop his arm down and go around underneath a lineman's arm and that kind of thing. But I appreciate the question because if you were thinking it, I'm sure somebody else was thinking it too. So yeah, there's off-platform throws. And by the way, Sherry, I'm going to make a video, the highlights for Lamar. If I put them all in one highlight, it would probably like break the internet rules of like time allowed for a video because it's just so many different good throws. So I'm going to, at the end of the year, I'm going to put all of Lamar's best off platform throws on one highlight reel and break Lamar's highlights down into chunks so you can see him do different things over and over again. So yeah, I want to get to our guy Shrimp Trawler, and I see him commenting here. I want to flip it over to the other side of the ball. Shrimp Trawler, thank you so much for joining us. Joe Thuney, Joe Thuney, I think is the way it's really pronounced, but Joe Thuney and Marlon Humphrey's health will swing the game. And Shrimp Trawler also says a peck on a guard can be brutal, and that is where you get the power. So, for those of you who don't know, Joe Thuney is the Chiefs' left guard. He is I wrote it down, 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, Alec, drafted the same year as Ronnie Stanley, 2016. So he's not old. He's in the prime of his career. I believe he's 30 or 31. An excellent player, one of the better left guards in the league. And he's going to be maybe missing this game. He hasn't practiced. Doubt he will practice. And if he does go, he's going to be dealing with a right pec strain. So if you think about it, if you're a left guard, your right pec is really what's not only your initial punch, but it's what's guarding the A gap. So if you have somebody coming up the middle like Roquan or PQ on a gap or on a blitz, or if you have a looper a back end of a stunt, and you have to protect that A gap with your right back. That is going to be no fun. Not to mention dealing with the size of guys like Michael Pierce, Travis Jones, the explosiveness of Justin Matabike. Just a huge injury for the Chiefs, Alec. Even if he plays, that's got to be tough. It's got to slow him down.
Yeah, bad timed injury for sure. If you go to Andrew Sequeira's comment, he's also talking about the offensive line and if Tooney's out and seeing a high probability for sacks. And I'm gonna just say I see you. I agree with a lot of it. It's so hard to sack Mahomes. He'll probably throw it away before you get home, but that's okay. If he's throwing it away, that's 0 yards. And I think I think you're on the right path, though. I think the big nasties really took control of that Texans game, and while their offensive line has had their ups and downs, they were being a pretty cohesive unit at the end of the year, protecting um, Stroud. So I was, while they got no sacks, he was pressured on 50% of his dropbacks, and I think with these injuries, and you said the tackle situation, we could definitely be going after Mahomes. And the key is to be able to rush effectively with four and not have to blitz. Well, it turns out that's exactly what we did against the Texans with high success. And these guys are built to do it. We have the
Right.
horses. That's the thing that's so cool about the roster construction. You kind of talked about with the offense. Okay, we have all these receiver options. You can run different personnel groupings. You can do whatever you need, and you're kind of resilient and game flow proof and game plan proof. I feel like the defense, they've assembled a bunch of guys who are somewhat interchangeable, can play in multiple different looks, and that's what's like so good about the defense is just how flexible these players are. I mean, it kind of starts with Kyle Hamilton. He's such a special talent with his ability to stop the run and the pass at such a high level. But it even
Right.
goes down to your text, like you were saying. You have Matabike going all across the line, playing in different spots and being able to get pressure that way. It's a really good group, man. It's a really solid group, and they're going to get pressure with four, and it's going to be a huge part of the reason why I think the Ravens are favored in this game.
Yes, and just to back you up there for a second, I did write this down and put it on the chart. Mahomes was only sacked 28 times this year, which is the second best, second fewest amount in the NFL. So, as much as we see Mahomes as somebody who holds the ball, he hasn't been sacked a lot. And I mean, that's in the division with Max Crosby and Joey Bosa and some good pass rushers in that division. Lamar, by the way, or in the Ravens, were sacked 41 times compared to 28 for Mahomes. That was middle of the pack. But as Shrimp Trawler's pointing out here, it's not always about the sacks. Stroud, no sacks, no turnovers, yet no time in the red zone, zero
Mm-hmm.
touchdowns. That's why throwing it away gets you. And Mahomes is not that kind of cat. That's true. Part of what was really impressive, we've been doing it all year, Alec, too. You didn't mention that when you were talking about it, but we haven't blitzed much all year. We're, like at the bottom of the league in like blitz percentage. When we do blitz, it's very calculated, it's very choosy. And when we do blitz, it's almost like, okay, we want to blitz in this against this particular formation on this particular down because we know that if we do blitz from this side, the quarterback is going to go to this particular receiver. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have our guy who's over there jump the route. So when the quarterback goes to his answer for the blitz, it's not going to be there. You're holding the ball, you get sacked. So
Mm-hmm.
that's been the Ravens' plan, and part of what has made Mike McDonald uh, just so effective as a defensive coordinator is that he's one step ahead of you. When I blitz, I know you're going to do this. I'm going to take it away. You'll have nowhere to go. We've seen intentional groundings too. We saw one last week. That should count as a sack, by the way. I feel like if you
It really should. Yeah.
intentional grounding, like just off subject, but if you intentional ground it, it's like if somebody goaltends in basketball, you still get credit for the points, even though the ball didn't go through the hoop. Yeah, I feel like somebody should get credit for the sack on that. That's so funny. Um, Points
Yeah.
scored. Go ahead, Alex. Do you have something?
Oh yeah. I mean, you're totally right. And one of the plays that was super cool against Houston is he dropped Matt in the coverage, and
Right.
like you said, like, oh well, he's gonna be hot to his crossing route over the middle. You met Matt drop. Stroud looks that way. He's like, I can't go there, and then that's when he intentionally grounded the ball. So you're right on, dude. Like it's kind of cool how that happens, and it seems easy, but like kind of going back to what we were discussing, it's really hard to do in today's NFL with all these motion guys, to be able to communicate. I mean, one thing we did, or at least I did earlier in the year, is I watched all these like coverage videos. Because we had Glover Quinn on the show, and he did like all these like coverage videos, and he was talking about like, oh, we're gonna call this swap here, we're gonna do this, like, oh, they come in the trips, you do that, and like there's always the if this then that. And while like these guys have been playing for forever, if one guy gets their if this then that wrong because of emotion or whatever, or like they're calling to each other, they don't hear it. That's when you get broken plays. That's when you get, huge gains or whatever. So it's hard. Defense is always reactive. The offense is going to run their play basically no matter what. The defense has to react to it. So the way that our defense is able to communicate and change those looks is huge.
And I think that this was an important reason and part of the reason that Wink was let go and Mike McDonald was brought in because you can't blitz Mahomes. He kills the blitz. You can't blitz smart quarterbacks. Joe Burrow fits in that. That's Joe Burrow's one of his best qualities is his intelligence and his ability to read the defense. So you can't like Wink was great feasting on quarterbacks that would shrink in the pocket or that weren't on top, couldn't read the defense, pre-snap reads. But when you get to this level of the playoffs and this level of competition, this is where being able to be effective without bringing the house is key, is crucial. And Wink gave up a lot of points to the Chiefs. It'll be really interesting to see the chess match between Andy Reid, who I have the utmost respect for, and Mike McDonald. You can see this Chiefs offense in points per game, middling, 21.8 points a game, 14th in the league. The Ravens points allowed. That should say first for the Ravens defense. I apologize there. Forgot to change the graphic, but they were first in points allowed here. So sorry about that. Almost makes me want to take it off the screen now, bro. So
yeah, they were 16.5, right? 16.5
yeah,
number one.
yeah. Sorry about that. I was probably the Chiefs number, and I forgot to delete it. So mistake here by Mr. Jason. But what gives me pause here is that you have to imagine that, especially down around the goal line or on a key play, that Andy Reid's got some kind of play that we haven't seen all year, some kind of trick, and it's going to be up to our very disciplined defense to stay disciplined in those situations. So you feel like Andy Reid's going to steal one somewhere along the line or two.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, what did we see against Houston? They were emptying the clip, bro. They had all these like reverses and laterals and hurry up, and they tried everything to score some points. They couldn't even get in the red zone. Now I think we're dealing with a different level of players all along the board. I loved Shrimtrawler saying dealing with a different kind of cat. Entirely true. Mahomes is really special. I respect the crap out of that guy, and I highly recommend, man, that Netflix series Quarterback. It was so interesting, like seeing how these guys prepare for the games and all, and he's definitely special in the way that he handles his day to day. Like he's obviously talented, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into it too. So these guys are incredible. Like you said, Andy Reid, one of the greatest schemers of all time, and I hear you, man. You got to respect this team. You got to know that they're going to be emptying the clip too. In many ways, I do feel like this is the Super Bowl. I kind of think whoever wins this game is going to win it all. I really do. But yeah, I think either side. I really do think that. But I guess we'll see. We'll see if the good guys come out on top.
Can't believe I messed up the graphic. I had to take that off the screen. I couldn't take it anymore.
It's okay.
Well, the Ravens are first in the league in points allowed, first in sacks, first in turnovers, first in NFL history to do
First
that.
so
first in dubs, man. First in dubs. First in coordinator interviews, which thankfully nobody has left us yet. That's great to hear.
Seems like no one's going to leave too. There's like only 2 spots left, and they're both have like good rumors,
Yeah, Vrabel hasn't been hired, has he?
No, Vrabel and Bill are both available, and apparently the commies are going to go with some guy. I forget who, but they have like a strong favorite.
Got a good question from our buddy down here. This is going to be good. How would you rank the 4 units, both offense and defense? Well, this is
Okay.
good. So I'm going to have to go Ravens defense, number 1 unit on the field.
Yeah.
Uh, I would have to say that. Second is going to be tough. Number 4 is the Chiefs offense. You believe it or not, the worst unit on the field is the Patrick Mahomes led Chiefs offense, and that has nothing to do with the current best quarterback in the NFL of his era, Patrick Mahomes. It has to do with the pass catchers, the receivers, the tackles that aren't that good. Um, yeah, so who is better? Who's your number 2 and who's your number 3, Alec? I guess you're agreeing that the Ravens defense is the number 1 unit. The Chiefs offense is the number 4 unit. Where do you go for 2 and 3?
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it's Ravens offense number two, Chiefs defense number three, and Chiefs offense number four. And I'm not trying to be like flippant on their defense, but I think we're going to score points, and it won't matter how good their defense is. So that'll mean that the offense is better. And also, I think one thing I point out on our show with Devoa, it's like I don't know if this is actually how the math works, but if you look at it, like whilst we have like highly ranked defenses and offenses on both sides of the ball, there's a big difference between the two. So our defense is 4 times better than their defense, and our offense is 2 times better than their offense in like Devoa rankings. So even though like we're like fourth and they're seventh, there's a gap there. And I think that's why I think our offense is better than their defense. I mean, frankly, we didn't even talk about the offensive line. Offensive line's playing the best they've ever played all year. That's huge. That's going to be huge in the pass game, huge in the run game. We're going to move man, and if they're clicking like that, man, it's just frustrating. You saw how tired the Texans defense got. They were tired. They gave up, and you do that again, the second quarter or second half, you're going to be putting up points.
Okay, so Shrimp Trawler is going to go with Kansas City's defense number 2, which I could see that too.
It's a reasonable take.
Toss
Yeah.
up, toss,
Yeah.
and then of course Chiefs offense number 4. He had a typo there too, so thank you, Shrimp Trawler. It made me feel not alone. Yeah, and then this is another truth that Peyton's Colts rush defense was rated poorly until the playoffs. That's why he likes the Chiefs defense. It's true. Those Bob Sanders team, the one of the most crushing losses in Ravens history. To me, it's up there with the 2011 loss at New England, was the 2006 loss here at home to the team in Indianapolis. And we had Jamal Lewis and an awesome rushing attack. And, what Shrimp Trawler's saying, to Shrimp Trawler's point, Indy had a rush defense that was small. It was a small on the defensive line. You had pass rushers instead of run defenders. And, man, Bob Sanders just wrecked that game. And Kansas City's defense has the same ability to do that. They said with their corners, with just a very good tackling team, they could slow down the Ravens' rush offense. Of course, if they do that, Alec, they're gonna need numbers to do so and a specific plan to do so. And if they do that, that's going to open things up for the pass offense. So that's where like the diversity of this offense is just so huge for the Ravens.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the good news is we've been really good at those second half adjustments. I can't remember if we talked about that or not, but the way that our offense has been able to figure out what's going on and be able to switch either, and sometimes even second quarter, adjustments, be able to adjust on the fly, see what's going on and see what they can attack makes me confident. And also similarly, I'm kind of confident if they change it on us in the fourth quarter. There's a mentioning here of Shrimp Trawler, how Cook started again, defeated in the fourth quarter. I could see the Ravens pivoting as well early, and not letting it go throughout the whole quarter.
So we're looking at the Ravens offensive depth chart. Very healthy, and it does not include Mark Andrews on there because he has not been activated yet. So if you're wondering where Mark Andrews is, the Ravens would have to open up a spot or activate him before the game. So you're looking at Ronnie Stanley getting healthier, Morgan Moses getting healthier. You're seeing that result in their play getting better. Kevin Zeitler has gotten better since the season has started. But it seems like every week Kevin Zeitler gets better, which is amazing for a veteran player. Tyler Linderbaum, steady as always. John Simpson, considered the weak link on this line, but I mean, even John Simpson can come through and handle some interior rushers. Just talent all over the place. Beckham, Bateman, Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, not even in the first row there. The tight end group goes deep. The running back goes deep. And Pat Ricard, what a game he had. against the Texans, manhandling folk. Can play that tight end spot, even though he's marked as a fullback, used as a tight end, and in so many different ways. So there you are, your Ravens offense. And let's take a look as it runs through to the Chiefs defense. I think we know our guys pretty well. So let's go over to the Kansas City side. Some key injuries. So let's go through this. Derek Nandi did not play last week, has not practiced this week. Tricep injury, so it does not look like their starting tackle is going to play. Willie Gay, excellent weak side linebacker. Listen to Andy Reid's press conference today, Alec. He said he's having problems moving his neck or turning his neck. He aggravated that during the game. So Willie Gay might be able to play this week. He was limited in practice, but he might not be able to last the whole game, and that would be a huge loss for the Chiefs, especially when a strength of the Ravens, as we mentioned many times, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, that's actually a really huge loss for them if that's the case. And I wanted to point out that we did waive Jeremiah Moon, so there is an open spot for Andrews, and there's really no one else that they would be activating at this point. So it's basically all but confirmed that Andrews will be activated.
Yeah, they tightened up the rotation too on defense. I saw that Tavius didn't get snaps until the end of the game, so that base defense they basically had Jadeveon Clowney out there and in Tavius's spot. So, but yeah, Willie Gay, excellent linebacker, and if he's having problems moving his neck on a Thursday, like I don't see how he's just going to be fine and dandy on Sunday. He's going to be playing through some pain. Mike Edwards, their starting free safety, finally back on the practice field today. He had a concussion, which are always tricky. And he was back in a limited practice today. So it doesn't mean he's fully cleared. He was cleared to practice. He could have a setback and miss the game or just not clear the next part of the process. But he is on track. Usually, if guys are practicing on Thursdays, they come back from, they're able to play on Sunday from a concussion, but no sure thing there either, Alec, and they're starting free safety.
Yeah, and that makes things tough. I think that that piece right there, Jalen Watson, these are two pieces that you can probably try to scheme against, and I think that's where the Ravens might be focusing. I also wanted to point out, Trim Trawler mentioning another guy we don't want to skip over in Tranquil. We saw that he was able to, I thought, neutralize some of the rushing that Josh Allen was trying to do, and he suggests that he could be spying Lamar. I think that's pretty astute. I think it could definitely happen.
Hey, for me, if they want to spy Lamar, that's fine. Yeah, I don't think, unlike Josh Allen, I don't think Drew Tranquil can catch up to Lamar. It's a different style
Keep,
runner. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, it's a different style of runner. You're talking about like Josh Allen would be like your, I don't know, your masher back, running back, and Lamar Jackson is more like your Jamal Charles. And so I don't know, man. Like Drew Tranquil, if they want to spy Lamar, like to me, I don't know if you feel this way, but I don't feel like spies have ever really worked against Lamar. I think that nothing really has, so it's kind of like pick your
Yeah, I was
poison.
going to say,
But,
what
but
does?
I feel like spying is kind of like not a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. You need a guy that doesn't really exist to spy effectively, Lamar Jackson, and
Right.
just taking away from the rest of your coverage or whatever. So
Yeah, Andrew coming through with a comment. I don't think Tooney, Nande, or Gay play, and if they do, they won't last long. That's the way it's looking. I mean, Tooney's going to be limited if anything, and if Willie Gay can't turn his neck or move his neck, that's tough. Nandi hasn't played or practiced, so yeah, I'm with you. And those, it's just strange to see, like especially everything we've been through since 2021, Alec, that the Ravens are the healthier team here. And this is where that bye week paid off. We got through the quote unquote rust phase. Here we are. Kansas City got beat up last week. The Ravens were able to shorten that game with the run game at the end. Get Dalvin Cook in there and some other guys in there. And the Ravens are the healthier team going into this week with some key losses. You're talking about one of your better run stuffing that won their team, maybe their best run defender in Nandi, their best linebacker or their best coverage linebacker in Willie Gay, and their free safety.
yep, that's exactly what he's saying. I think you're right on. That makes it tough. It makes it really tough when you see how built up this Ravens defense is and depth wise. It's definitely going to be tricky for them.
And I like the way you said layers, actually, Andrew, because it's three levels of the defense. You're missing a guy up front, a guy in level two, and a guy on the back end. Shamari Connor, by the way, you see on their depth chart, he is their backup. He came in for them last week. He is a rookie, as you can see, drafted in the fourth round of 2023. Alec, he's not a free safety. He is more of like a slot defender, a smaller guy, not a smaller guy, but he's not a free safety. He's more like your box safety slash slot defender. So they really don't have another true free safety if Mike Edwards can't go.
Yep. Yeah, that's a big deal too. It might open up the deep passing game, something we really just haven't seen the Ravens try to do too much of.
So yeah, so that's a look at that Chiefs defense. Not a lot of star power. You look at Chris Jones. That's the guy that everybody knows, but they have been a really good defense because of their defensive coordinator and the way that they play together. And they're going to need that at M&T Bank Stadium with no home field advantage. Chiefs offense, there's the big loss right there, potentially in Joe Thuney. And you can tell, or you can see by the depth chart, his backup is a seventh round pick from 2019, Nick Allegretti. Allegretti's more like a swing player, Alec. He's their Pat McCary, more than capable. But again, Joe Thuney is one of the better players in the league.
Yeah, I mean, we know how big of a loss it'll be up the middle. Obviously, Creed Humphrey is a guy that could maybe compensate a bit. He's a very good center, but they would be so much better with a healthy Thuney.
So, Alec, we didn't mention this, and it's kind of gone under the radar a little bit. And even here on Our Lads, they don't have it. But Isaiah Pacheco did not practice again today with a toe injury.
Mm.
Um, it sounds like turf toe. Been a fan for a long time, up there in age, but usually when you get a toe injury and a guy's trying to play through it, turf toe. So you're talking about, probably their best weapon aside from Travis Kelsey there, Isaiah Pacheco, a hard runner, a downhill runner. If he's battling turf toe, it's painful, but it could also affect his ability to push off and some of his power that he has.
Yeah, typewriter feet, Pacheco. The way he runs is so violent. It's so angry, and if he has a turf toe, that's going to be that's not good. He's not a gazelle out there, man. He kind of smashes that grass. So I think you could definitely see how that would impact his game, and then they might have to lean more on Hilaire, which much smaller back, not as powerful. He's been playing a little bit better this year, but never really lived up to that first round billing. I would, and also kind of under the radar is that McKinnon is not available. That was a guy who was huge for them in the playoff run last year. Kind of turned it on hot. They don't have that ascending running back right now if Pacheco's hurt.
Yeah, Jerick McKinnon would definitely be a weapon that it seems like Mahomes uses him more as the season goes on while he's been in Kansas City, where they just pull out. That's like their Lamar's legs for their offenses. Oh, well, you got everything covered. We're going to dump it off to McKinnon, let him get hot during the playoffs. So them not having Jerick McKinnon is a big loss. And then also I don't know, I'm going to get your opinion on this. It seems like the type of backs that have given the Ravens problems this year are backs with speed. So maybe they don't just threaten the edge right away, but it's an inside run and they bounce it out. And there's runs down the sideline that are sprung on the Ravens. And I don't see the type of back or Kansas City have the type of back that can do that. They have more of not the fastest group, a straight ahead group. And that seems like the type of running backs that the Ravens have handled this year.
That's a really good call out. I think you're 100% on the money with that, and that's because of how physical this defense plays. Like, you can't really out physical them. If you're, the biggest bruiser in the league, and Henry, he didn't have much production against us, and I think that's, kind of just showing you like you can't be out physical. You can't out physical this defense. I think that's what's special about them this year. And yeah, maybe you can outrun them, but you can't out fight them.
So I love the interior of their offensive line. I do not love their tackles. So if you want just a talent evaluation, and this is not me, just my opinion, this is the majority opinion. This is kind of like as factual as you can get. Their left tackle, their right tackle, very penalty prone, not a good group, average at best type. They jump a lot, they hold a lot, not the best group. The Ravens, you would have more faith in Ronnie Stanley and Morgan Moses than you would in Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor. The interior of their line with Thuney is one of the best in the game. Trey Smith, big, strong player. Creed Humphrey, big, strong for a center. And of course, Thuney, the all star. So they're very good on the inside. The good thing is, Alec, we have some big bodies on the inside. They're not going to be able to push us around like they would other teams.
Travis Jones is turning it on. Pierce has been great all year. Matt Abike and All Pro. I think that's what you're looking at right there. You're looking at these guys being able, like, that's three guys, three men right there. They're going to be able to dominate if they want to, and I think they will.
Yeah, so a decent Chiefs roster when it comes to, as far as like the size of the roster, they're a big, strong roster. Running back, tight end, interior line, even their tackles are big, strong guys. But it lacks speed. Like the Ravens' defense is the faster unit, the more explosive unit. And it's not like the Ravens back down. We're always going to be a physical team. So I like the way this defense matches up on the KC offense. They said the only thing that gives me pause is Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They're wizards. They're doing the best of what they do.
Indeed, but who's catching the ball for them? That's what their downfall's been all year. These drop balls, inopportune times, and that's I don't know if they fix that, man. I mean, Travis Kelce is a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's lost a step this year, though. He's definitely not as dominant as he was in years past. You look at Rashid Rice. He's a guy who, if he can get going, if he gets that separation, that mythical separation, he might be all right. But he's not the best separator, and I feel like he runs a really limited route tree, and he's the kind of wide receiver we can handle. Scantling, downfield attack, a guy that I think, again, with our free safeties and the way our corners play and kind of push it to the boundary, I think he's going to have a real hard time. Watson's good in the red zone. Let's keep an eye out for him. I think Kadarius is just out. He's been kind of a disaster this year. And Mecole Hardman is a speed threat, but he's just really never done much with it.
Exactly. So, I think a lot of times Ravens fans, especially this time of year, get caught up on who's guarding who. And yeah, we do have some man concepts. We play some match zones. We will man up on some, but this is primarily a zone defense. Um, so you're talking about who's matched up on who. It just depends on where the other team lines up a lot of times. But I do expect Kyle Hamilton to be a thorn in Travis Kelsey's side. I expect, like I said, maybe some match zone where you have uh, Hamilton on Kelsey and play zone around it. Marlon Humphrey or Brandon Stevens, if Marlon plays, they're both the same type of corner, big physical corners who can tackle. So I don't see a lot of difference. One thing to point out, Rocky Scene left practice yesterday and missed practice today. So yeah, so that could be a potential loss in the secondary if Marlon's unable to come back.
Yeah, it makes you quite thin really quickly.
Right. Now, if Marlon can't play and Yassine can't play, then you're down to two basically outside corners in Darby and Brandon Stevens, with Millette being your slot corner, and of course you're mixing Kyle Hamilton into the slot. What a talented Ravens defense, though. Let's just enjoy this picture and like
It's a good picture, and thank you for your service, Jeremiah Moon, recently
yeah.
cut. So
Yeah, I mean, it's just a great defense. And, the sad thing about sports is you only have the same team one time. I mean, that's what makes it like so important for the Ravens to cash in because there's talent everywhere. I mean, you got PQ and Roquan playing together. Who knows what that's going to bring? You got Geno Stone, who's a free agent. You got three guys who can play free safety. You got Marcus can play free safety. Geno can play free safety. Kyle can play free safety if you needed them to. Um, it's just such a talented group. And shout out to Ronald Darby, who I don't know how he did, but he came back from a knee injury in 10 months to start opening day for us. And he's just been so excellent.
yeah, and great call out by Trawler that Ojabo and Bowser were supposed to be huge contributors to this team, and they just because of injury were not, and still Van Noy and Owe and Clowney have stepped up, and even Tavius Robinson and Malik Harrison too on the edge have all stepped up to fill in admirably.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if you said, okay, look, Ajabo's going to play what, 2 games, I think it was, game and a half. And, Bowser's not going to play all year, but you're going to lead the league in sacks
Yeah, that's what happened.
with Owe and a couple of guys you get off the street. who are having career years. Jadeveon Clowney
And don't
and
forget about the
Calvin.
slot corner, man. We have a deadly slot corner situation between Hamilton and Millette, both playing really well. And now their thinness at outside linebacker or outside corner makes me not think that Humphrey's going to play any slot. I thought there was a chance he might play in the slot, but not now with how
Yeah,
thin the.
I'm not sure what Yassine's injury is. He checked that later, but he left practice yesterday and didn't practice today. And of course, Harbaugh isn't saying anything when it comes to injuries. Turf toe, what does it do to a toe? Sherry, all I know is the flexibility in it is not there. It's basically like tearing a. It could be like a small tear or a minor tear in the ligaments down there. So it's just painful. It's just painful, and you're not going to have the same like push off. So maybe Dr. Alex sounds like he's typing something up over there.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know though.
Yeah.
I was looking up this Yassine thing if there's any more information.
Okay. There you go. There you go. So Alec, we're here, man. We're towards the end of the show. Just a huge game. Um, I want this group to win bad for the city. I want this group to win bad for Lamar. I want this group to win bad just for like every last man on this team. It's just such a fun team to watch. I don't want it to end. I want to see this thing through, man.
Yeah, that last sentence I thought was really key. All the men on the team. We did a thing last year on the show that I actually really enjoyed, of just a little sentence about each player on the team because you're never gonna get that same group again, and I think that's what's so special and easily lost. I mean, this team might have a lot of turnover going into the next year. It's potentially true. They have a lot of snaps that are going to be free agents, and we'll see how many they can come back. Because almost all of them want more money for sure. They all played well, so it's just a matter of seeing like who can come back, who we backfill with, who we draft. Who we sign free agency, if anybody. These are all questions that will result in a different team next year. And you see the camaraderie these guys have had, how well some of these mercenaries are playing, and you do want to see them get a ring. And then you go back up the chain. You want to get Lamar a ring. He's been talking about it for years. Like, you couldn't do it on the rookie contract, and then you get him signed to this blockbuster deal, and then you're like, oh man, like how are they ever going to construct a playoff roster? Well, they sure as hell did it this year, and they're going to do it again next year, I'm sure. But this is a special group, and it's time. It's time to get that ring.
It's time. So, good luck to everybody on Sunday. Let's stay healthy. Let's bring home this win.
And no
If you're
rain.
going, well, yeah, I have no rain, but no weapon, no weapon,
No
no,
weapon.
no, whether it's a referee crew or whatever it may be, no weapon form, man. The
Yeah.
Ravens are going to play Raven football, man, and that's in any kind of weather. We've seen it all year. We just need them to continue it for 2 more weeks and slay the beast that you've talked to Chiefs fans. He's Patrick Mahomes is not human. Like you can't
He's the
say
alien.
anything negative. He's an alien, man. He is an alien. Yeah, and Andrew, final thought here in the comments. I feel like the Ravens, the way the players are locked in, I don't think they will be denied a Super Bowl. It seems that way, like destiny. It's got that feel to it, man, and it's also got the feel that they're just the best team. So it would be, aside from anything else, it would be a damn shame if they didn't win this. They're clearly have been the best team in the NFL, making Johnny U proud. So Alec, with that, I want to say thank you to my football family. Love my football family. Thank you to the people who tuned in. Had a good amount of people in here the whole time, even though we didn't promote it. Love you guys. Hopefully, we'll be tuning in next week with another preview and have some guests and keep this thing rolling. But I really appreciate everybody's support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Doesn't cost you anything, but it makes the channel more popular and allows more people to see the cut up, like the videos, all that kind of good stuff. Would appreciate it because I love the way people learn stuff and notice stuff from the videos, and it makes football easier to watch. The more you watch that coach's tape, Alec, the more you can see when the game is on.
Yep, no doubt. I love it. I love talking to you, Jason, and let's do another show or two. How about that? Be
It
good.
would be nice. It would be nice. That's the plans. Love you guys. Have a good night. Football is family.